I am humbled and honored to be here. I am Heidi Graham. I am a 27-year resident of Arlington Heights, a military brat, and president of the League of Women Voters of Arlington Heights, Mount Prospect, and Buffalo Grove. I want to thank Stacy Stein Stapleton for being with us here today as our ASL interpreter. My husband and I put roots in this community first by starting and building a business, and then by raising our family in Arlington Heights. Arlington Heights has been good to us, but that does not mean that the community is good for everyone. The mission of the League of Women Voters is to empower voters and defend democracy. And what better way to empower voters than to make sure they are heard even when their elected officials do not want to listen. While many of our village elected officials continually claim that their position is not political, when you are in elected office, you are in political office. Like League, they are nonpartisan. In our 101-year history, we have never endorsed a single candidate or a single party. But our elected officials are also nonpartisan. Last summer, racist graffiti was found in numerous places in our community, one of which just steps from our village hall. And this has spurned conversation and action. In response, the village hired Kaleidoscope at taxpayer cost of $30,000 to research what needs to be done at the village level to make sure that Arlington Heights is truly a city of good neighbors. And now I've lost my place. So after a single request to fly the pride flag, and only the second request to fly any flag in the city's history, the reaction was to immediately draft and pass an exclusionary flag ordinance. This overreaction and unwillingness to listen to their constituents proves that we still have a long way to go to achieve an inclusive community. We must ask the question of our leaders: do you take diversity, equity, and inclusion seriously? Or was hiring Kaleidoscope and spending taxpayer money just a ruse to look like you care about the voices of marginalized communities? This ordinance was put on an agenda following a holiday weekend, which appears to have been done to avoid any community input. Further, Trustee DeGrassi proposed an acceptable amendment that failed to pass. Despite 17 residents speaking up about how showing solidarity to the Black and queer residents would make a meaningful impact in their lives, 4 trustees and the president chose to ignore any lived experience but their own. The village board could have listened to their constituents. They did not. The village board could have shown their commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. They did not. The village board could have made a positive impact on the lives of the least visible in our community, and they did not. Our league is proud to give space and voice to those who feel unseen and unheard. I want to introduce Cook County Commissioner Kevin Morrison. And after Cook County Commissioner Kevin Morrison, I'm very proud to have Luke Sperrio, a young resident here in Arlington Heights, speak with us. And then my new friend, Javon Jarrett, also an Arlington Heights resident.
Thank you, Heidi. Well, I first want to begin by thanking everyone for showing up here today. If there's any message we should leave with, is that visibility saves lives and that Gen Z is leading the way. I'm Cook County Commissioner Kevin Morrison. I represent the 15th District, which includes the southern portion of Arlington Heights. When I was elected in 2018, I became the first openly LGBTQ person ever elected to the Cook County Board of Commissioners. I know just how important visibility means to youth growing up in the northwest suburbs because I was one of them. When I grew up in Elk Grove Village, I didn't see people like me. And so I never in a million years thought that one day I'd be able to represent the community I grew up in, living my life as my authentic self, as an openly LGBT person, but also someone who was able to do that and get elected to office here in the northwest suburbs. So we have definitely moved strides in the past several years. I want to say that when I learned about some of the moves that were going on in Arlington Heights, it disappointed me because I was well aware of some of the vandalisms that had taken place, pride flags destroyed or stolen. When a government body raises the pride flag, it has such a large and important impact. This past June, Cook County raised the pride flag on Daly Plaza for the entire month of June. I helped lead the way to make that happen. And I know that it impacted lives throughout Cook County, not just here in the 15th District, but across Cook County. And when we have homophobic incidents occurring still to this day in villages in the northwest suburbs, there's no stronger message our village leaders can make than saying that we stand with our LGBTQ residents. Because we have to be honest, LGBT individuals live in every single village in the northwest suburbs. And when our government institutions say that they stand against hate and they stand for their communities, there's no better way than raising that pride flag. And so I want to congratulate Trustee Grassi for moving forward on an amendment that would allow the village board to raise flags that either the state or federal government has also allowed held above their buildings. And I strongly urge the Arlington Heights Board to bring back up that amendment and to vote and see it pass through. And we see here today, I won't be the only one urging Arlington Heights to do this. We've got a great group of support. And so I strongly believe that we are getting to a point where, we're in that middle point where there is pushback, but you know what? There are so many more people standing up for the LGBTQ community that love will win out. I also want to recognize some of the other government leaders who joined us in the march today. We have State Representative Mark Walker and State Senator Ann Gillespie. My counterpart on the board, who also represents Arlington Heights, Scott Pritting, couldn't be with us today, but his district director is here, so I want to thank him for sending some of his staff. But we have to recognize that it is all on us. It is our voices going to our government leaders and telling us what we need, what our wishes are, that is going to make all the change possible. And so I have hope, the people around me have hope, and we just need to push for that better future. And I really hope that next June, I will be here when Arlington Heights raises the pride flag for the first time and not the last. Thank you.
Just quickly, I want to make sure that we are all in solidarity, not just for the pride flag, but for the Juneteenth flag. It is not lost on us that this ordinance came on the heels of Juneteenth finally becoming a national a recognized holiday and on the heels of Pride Month. So next, I proudly introduce Luke Sperrio.
Hello, my name is Luke Sperrio. I'm a lifetime resident of Arlington Heights. I'm also a gay man and have experienced the discrimination and the isolation of growing up as a minority in this community. In passing the exclusive flag ordinance, the Board of Arlington Heights has confirmed what many minorities in this community already knew. Despite recently passing a showy diversity, equity, and inclusion statement, when put to the test, some trustees remain apathetic and disconnected from the experiences of many of their constituents. This ordinance creates a cascade of negative effects for minorities, businesses, and residents of our community. The refusal to fly the Pride and Juneteenth flags ignores a simple yet powerful way to create an affirming and safe space in Arlington Heights. I could not help be troubled by the way the 5 straight white male trustees dismissed the reasoning and personal stories of minority villagers at the board meeting, claiming it's not what the people of Arlington Heights really want. And I'm embarrassed by their disregard for their constituents' quality of life. I speak on behalf of my community demanding better from the board that claimed to support me in the Pride Proclamation that it posted on May 28th. The passing of this flag ordinance just 5.5 weeks later reveals the proclamation to be an empty promise. Businesses of all sizes regularly consider making Arlington Heights their home. Even the Chicago Bears, a progressive brand with global recognition, is evaluating if our community is where it wants to build its future. By failing to affirm its tolerance and respect for diversity, we are inviting businesses to pass by Arlington Heights in search of more dynamic and forward-thinking communities that surround us. Existing businesses will also suffer. Potential villagers committed to raising open-minded families are already taking notice of this exclusive ordinance and are reconsidering their decision to settle down here. Minorities and their allies from across Chicagoland will hesitate to patronize small businesses that we treasure and instead take their business to communities that more openly welcome their patronage. Some members of this board claimed that continuing the village's tradition of no flag code will make their job too hard. I ask, please try harder. You owe it to both minority citizens. You owe it to both minority citizens and all members of this community to find a way to see these requests through. And to be clear, I'm referring to just 2 requests over the past decade. We will not back down until this regressive decision, which flies in the face of recent DEI and Pride proclamations, is revisited and revised. Thank you.
I am awed by Luke, and I think all of us here are awed by Luke. When I was his age, I certainly wasn't standing up for anyone, including myself. So I stand in absolute pride with you, Luke. Thank you. I want to introduce now one of my new friends, Javon. And we need to hear the perspective of our Black brothers and sisters who live here in our community. Well, we will wait for the train to go by.
Thank you, Heidi. Luke, that's a hard act to follow. I didn't have prepared notes, so whenever you decide to run for anything, you have my support. 100%. Again, thank you for having me out. My name is Javon Jarrett. I'm originally from Flint, Michigan. I, along with my lovely wife, attorney Shiny Jarrett, and my 3 beautiful daughters, Jayla, Giselle, and Joy, we've been residents of Arlington Heights for about 6.5 years. We moved about 6 years ago from, we made the transition from, we originally moved from Hyde Park to Des Plaines, Mount Prospect, and then we settled into Arlington Heights. So I've had perspective from different angles and perspectives to see what goes on in the northwest suburbs. Overall, the experience has been eye-opening. I remember meeting with a former Chicago Bear legend's wife when I first moved around here, and she told me when her and her husband were looking for homes, when I told her I originally lived in Arlington Heights, she said, "What?" She said, wow, I remember when me and my husband went to go look at a residence while he was still playing football, and their agent came out to look at the property, and the owner would not let them into the property to see. I said, wow, seriously? She said, yeah. I said, well, I haven't experienced anything like that. She said, well, you know, things have changed. And I'm often reminded when I talk to my wife, and she graduated from Maine East, I believe, or Maine South, I'm not quite sure which one. She mentioned to me that up until 1977, there was an ordinance in Park Ridge where you couldn't sell property to African Americans. I said, seriously? I never heard about that. And it's funny because when Heidi came by my house yesterday, we talked briefly about what the flag means to us, because I believe everyone has a different perspective and perception of the flag. She talked about how her grandfather, who's a great man, fought in the war. And I talked about how my grandfather, who fought in 2 wars, he fought for this American flag. And he told me that when he got home from fighting in 2 wars, he couldn't go to a bank to cash a check because he was black. I said, what? Ever since that moment, the flag has given me kind of a different perspective. And I think that America is great, but also America is an idea. And I think that a flag represents the perspective of those who adhere to it. So I'm not against, in no way, shape, or form am I against any flag. I believe that it's something that can bring conversation and hopefully sparks change. However, it is somewhat hurtful to know that a Juneteenth flag has created such a disdain for our elected officials here in Arlington Heights. Had I known, and I'll just do a quick exercise. Every room I walk in, I always scan the room. How many people out here today identify themselves as people of color? Raise your right hand.
You identify as color?
Yeah. So I got 1, 2, 3, I see you. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. According to not this past census, but the census prior to, Arlington Heights was about a little less than 1% black. It's like, whoa. So what that means is pretty much everywhere I go in Arlington Heights, I'm about, yeah, this is kind of high, it's 10 people. So imagine everywhere you go, where you live, where you're paying about $20,000 a year in property taxes, you're a minority. So make no mistake, my wife and I, we live a beautiful life. However, to know that my property taxes are going to a place who can't even acknowledge the fact that so my people who were, enslaved, perished, raped, discredited, never given an opportunity. Now, we're all past that, but we can't even raise a flag in symbolism of freedom and celebrate that. Yeah, it kind of stings. So in closing, I would ask, every time you look at this flag, think about it sometimes from a different perspective. What does it mean and how does it make someone else feel rather than yourself? And with that said, I appreciate you all's opportunity. I'm hoping a year from now we can celebrate having more than just the American flag raised at our great city. And, in closing, we just have to continue to build and keep growing.
Thank you all so much for coming. I want to thank especially the young people who are standing behind me. I say all the time, I'm as privileged as a person comes. I am not here to try to reach down and lift anyone up. I want to put all of these young people on my shoulders because they are our future. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Will Arlington Heights welcome us?
Thank you for speaking.
Prove it, fly the flag. Will Arlington Heights respect us?
Prove it, fly the flag!